Hi, welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to continue to explore that third aspect of a contracting system, which is to provide for remedies in the event of non-performance, in the event of a breach of contract. And so we're going to talk about damages, monetary damages, as well as defenses under the CISG. Now, the CISG includes provisions for monetary damages. We saw that when we were looking at buyer and seller remedies. Both the buyer and seller have a right to receive money for the breach of a contract. Now, the party claiming the damages must prove the existence of the breach as well as the amount of damages suffered as a result of the breach. That burden is on the party that is claiming damages. That party must also establish that the damages were caused by the breach and not by some other intervening factor. There must be a causal relationship between the breach and the damages. And then finally, we're going to talk about defenses. A defense is an excuse for non-performance. And the CISG provides these defenses for the failure to perform in certain circumstances. So in this lecture, we're going to look at damages and defenses available under the CISG. Now we start out with this notion, what are damages? What are monetary damages? Now, recovering damages requires proof of liability for the breach of contract as well as proof of loss. And when we look at monetary damages, the law defines these as the money claimed by or ordered to be paid to a person as compensation for loss or injury. So these damages, money damages, equal the sum of money for which a person who has been wronged is entitled to receive from the wrongdoer as compensation for the wrong. And this measure of monetary damages applies to all sorts of causes of action, not simply breach of contract, but for instance, torts, negligence. If you are struck while driving by a negligent driver, you are entitled to sue that driver to recover a sum of money which will compensate you for the loss that you have suffered as a result. That loss could be your property damage to your vehicle, but it also could be the pain and suffering that occurs as a result of that wrongful act. So what we are doing when a court awards damage is in essence to compensate the non-breaching party for the harm that was caused by the breach. Now, in measuring monetary damages, we say that a party is entitled to receive its expectation interest. Remember, this is the general measure of recovery. What did you expect to receive under the contract? Now, the CISG calls the non-breaching party the aggrieved party. And the CISG says that the aggrieved party must be put in as good a position as if the other party had fully performed. Whatever sum of money that is, the non-breaching party is entitled to receive because its expectation was not met. And so the money is going to make up for the lack of the recovery of the expectation interest. So again, non-breaching party under the CISG is called the aggrieved party. However, when calculating monetary damages, try not to think of it in terms of fault and right or wrong. Think of it as the breaching party and the non-breaching party. And I'll explain why in a second. Now, the first thing that a party who is seeking damages must do is to establish liability. Establish that the party did not perform. Now, the common law, in terms of monetary damages, I said they have a no-fault approach, meaning it does not matter why the breaching party failed to perform. It could be a good reason, it could be a bad reason. in any event, the measure of damages is the same. The measure of damages is not about punishment. The measure of damages in a contract action is to satisfy the expectation of the non-breaching party. And in fact, according to the economic theory of breach, the economic theory of breach says that sometimes buyers or sellers should breach if it is more economically advantageous to breach, to pay the damages, and then to make money on the back end. And so the economic theory of breach says that sellers in a rising market may need to breach. Now, if a seller is selling oil, for instance, and they have a contract price of $50 a barrel, the market price right now is $60 a barrel, but the seller believes that the market price is going to go up to $80 a barrel. The seller may breach its present obligation to provide good at $50 a barrel, pay the damages, which are going to be the difference between the $60 price and the $50 price, and then recover once the goods have increased in value. It's more economically efficient for a seller in a rising market to breach. Now, similarly, buyers breach in a falling market. If you are the party on the other side and you're contracted to buy oil at $80 a barrel, but the price is now dropping and you believe that the price is going to drop even farther, then if the price of oil goes down to $70 a barrel, you can breach. You can notify the seller you're not going to take delivery. You're going to breach. You pay the damages, which is the difference between the $80 price and the $70 price. But if the price of the barrel of oil drops to $40 a barrel, then you are going to make more money in the long run. And so that's the economic theory of breach. Now, the civil law, I will caution you, cares a bit more about the reason for the breach. The CISG is a compromise between the common law non-fault approach and the civil law approach of why did you breach the contract. Nevertheless, because the CISG often applies to large commercial entities, sophisticated commercial entities, it leans into the common law. And for our purposes in the class, you can take the position that the reason for the breach is immaterial to the recovery for the breach.